This is a picture that'll probably make you roll your eyes or laugh or maybe get angry or a little bit scared. This is not what my preconceived notions were coming into the fire service. I did not envision myself as a firefighter holding a cell phone and an iPad on a 2-alarm apartment fire. It's a shocking picture because it represents change in the fire service. And it was more shocking when it ended up on Facebook with a caption from a very good friend of mine, and I'm just gonna read it for you to start out the presentation. Andy, dude, I love you, but I love this photo more because you've brought to life a living version of a Paul Combs drawing. Love this, a modern day firefighter holding an iPad, your eyes closed, on a cell phone. Makes me wonder how you're going to use the axe or put on your SCBA. Only thing missing is a Camelback full of Starbucks or Pete's Coffee. Complete chief material, LMFAO. That's from Mark Lucero in the Richmond Fire Department. And the look on my face is really one of resignation because I came out of a hallway. It was unbelievable to me, actually. There were tons of hoarders in one apartment complex. There were like 5 of them. And I'm walking out and I saw one of my friends holding an iPhone, taking a picture of me. This was in the de-escalation phase of the fire, so there wasn't a whole lot of danger at that moment, but that look on my face was like, dude, really? Do you have to catch me in this compromising position? And again, we see our friend Paul Combs, who's been invoked a few times in some of these great presentations. 150 years of tradition, unimpeded by progress, but Paul does a great job of actually representing the tension that exists in the fire service right now. We are an all-in-one Swiss Army knife. We're expected to master the newest technology, yet deal with some of the craziest fire problems that are getting worse with more petrochemical fuels, a lot of different variety of incidents, and new emergencies that we haven't seen before. So here we are, we get new technology sometimes foisted on us. We don't have any idea how it works, yet we're supposed to use it, and sometimes use it under the gun. So I really relate to that tension that Paul Combs is representing in these couple of illustrations. So this happened in 2007 in my fire department. And a few days ago, in getting ready for this presentation, I reviewed the report, and I also reviewed the radio traffic. And I listened to Captain Matt Burton's last transmission. He's on the right there. And standard, heavy fire and smoke showing from the Alpha side, reports of people trapped inside. We're taking an 1 3/4 line through the front, passing command. Later on in that transmission, you hear the IC show up. Command really hadn't been passed. There wasn't. There were some miscommunications. And you hear that IC, and his voice is elevated. And he's saying, Firefighter 70, IC. Captain 70, IC. And there's been a lot of reference to family and children. And I was off duty. In fact, in full disclosure, I was a recruit with this agency. I had 8 years in the Pacific Northwest as a professional firefighter, decided to do it all over again and move back to my home in California. So I was in the backyard. It was a Saturday. We were off that day. From recruit school, and a friend of mine who had been a firefighter with this agency, Contra Costa County Fire, for a long time, called me about 9 o'clock in the morning. It was almost a cliche setting. My kids were running around the backyard, the grass was green, it was a nice warm day, my wife was doing some yard work, and I picked up the phone, and he said, did you see the news last night? And I thought I missed a really good fire. I thought he was going to give me a little bit of grief for being in recruit school when they went off on a good fire, a good wreck, a good something. And I said, no, I didn't see the news. He goes, we lost 2 of our guys last night. And I said, come again? We lost 2 of our guys last night. And my mind began to swirl. Lost them? Why didn't you find them? And then it set in. We've just had our own line of duty deaths. And as I had said, I've been in the fire service for about 8 years before. So I went to 9/11 for the memorials. With my previous fire department, walked down Madison Avenue or Madison Square Garden, in my Class A's with 70,000 other firefighters. I'd been to funerals from guys from my own department because of line of duty cancer. I had never been a part of an agency in a bread and butter house fire where 2 guys lost their lives. It was literally a kick in the guts. And I had to sit down and just contemplate what that meant. And so the report ensued, just like a report ensues after every line of duty death across this country. And it identified a bunch of different recommendations, 112, 8 for incident command, 13 for strategy and tactics, 23 for operations, 7 for personnel accountability, 18 for fireground emergencies. And incidentally, recommendations don't get written when you're doing stuff well. These were holes that the committee identified in our operations. And these same recommendations come out every time there's a line of duty death across our country, whether it's Houston or Seattle or Phoenix or Charlotte, what have you. There are, Asheville, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. There are these same line of duty deaths that almost cookie cutter, and the same things get identified. And this happened in a 1,200 square foot house. This is a bread and butter house fire. So, I was asked to find some incident command solutions and some personnel accountability solutions, because it was known that I had come from a department in the Northwest that was fairly progressive, and we had some curriculum on that. So I was rifling through my curriculum, and I was looking online, and I was doing a lot of research, and honestly what I found was the comparison between VHS and Betamax. And that is no disrespect to departments that use passport accountability tags or the key fob system or clips with name tags. These are systems that work and departments deploy them. But what I was finding is that a lot of these fire departments were using these after the fact. They weren't immediately deploying them because the first 0 to 5 minutes of an incident is so hectic, there's such a fog of war, that accountability, a lot of incident commanders point, I got it all right here. They have it all right here right up until something goes wrong. And so my humble submission is that really it was comparing 2 aged technologies, Betamax versus VHS. And this was 2008. So I'm rifling through my curriculum, I'm doing my online searches, and I had gotten this brand new whiz-bang device called an iPhone. And I waited for the iPhone 2. And this is not a commercial for Apple, but what the iPhone represented to me was innovation and a glimpse into the future, because all these icons were moving, tap and drag, tap and drag, tap and drag, and things were instantaneously populating. And I worked at a very busy house. We run 15, sometimes 20 calls a day, and many through the night. A little single engine house, we were running about 4,000 calls a year. Incidentally, it's the same engine house about a year and a half later that our 2 guys lost their lives from. So I'm laying on my couch. I'm sleep deprived, and I'm playing Words with Friends. I don't know if many of you know that game, but it's a Scrabble game, and your tiles populate automatically. They pop right into your screen, and you can tap and you can drag onto the playing board. So I'm spelling words, words that are appropriate for a firefighter to spell. So 3- and 4-letter words, some 2-letter words. Every now and then I'd get real fancy and spell a 5-letter word. So I'm tapping, and every time I'm touching a tile, the tile is swelling, and I'm dragging it onto the playing board. And then I'm realizing I'm playing with someone remotely, playing with someone in Texas, Thailand, Taiwan, Timbuktu. And they're responding. They're sending me letters back, and they're spelling words, and we're actually having a conversation. And then it dawned on me. It was an epiphany that was like a ton of bricks that came crashing down. Those tiles are engine, truck, and rescue companies. That Scrabble board is the fireground. And in real time, we can arrange our units onto a digital command board, and what's even better is we can timestamp it. And so I started making drawings, because all of these talks have been, how do you leave the fire service better? How do you take passion and innovate? How do you keep our guys safer? How do you maintain better track of people during that fog of war? So I'm thinking and thinking and thinking. And I started making these, literally crayon drawings and cocktail napkin drawings. And I picked up the phone, called a guy in my fire department who was really good with ones and zeros, had a computer programming background, because I had none of that. I am not a techie at all. And the reason I put this up here, this is a photograph of John F. Kennedy when he was giving his speech to Rice University in 1962. He gave a similar speech in 1961 to Congress about putting a guy on the moon, actually putting a human on another celestial body by the end of the decade. I am convinced that JFK did not have a set of directions on how to do that. He did not have a blueprint. We had never done it before, so I'm sure it came with a certain amount of fear and trepidation, but what happened is we put a person on the moon, and there was failure and associated along the way, and there were a lot of bumps and bruises, and there was criticism, and there were a lot of false starts, but in the end, the goal was achieved. Because I had no business degree, no business background, no computer programming background. I was a firefighter, so there was a whole chain of command issues. Imagine some of you brass in the room, some firefighter comes walking through the door, says, "Hey chief, I'm gonna put an incident command system on an iPad." First question, what's an iPad? Second question, no, you're not. We have a whole chain of command. Go back and talk to your captain. So I had to have this sort of sense of almost distorted reality to make this thing go. But as a few of the speakers have said today, if you have the passion for it, you can make it happen. And this idea had to live. And this is what it is today. And this is not necessarily a commercial for this product, but what it is a passion for keeping our people safe. And so what we have is auto-populated personnel accountability and incident command that's tied to a CAD system. Because the thing that would just bother me on the way to fires were incident commanders that were getting on the radio and saying, "Give me a rundown on my first alarm units. Give me a rundown on my second alarm units. Okay, now who's on the second floor? Who's on the third floor? Who's Division Bravo again?" And we wanted to just eliminate it. The whole goal was not to, and the whole goal of this talk is not a commercial for this product. The whole goal is to save bandwidth, is to create radio space for that critical radio transmission, that mayday, to save time for the incident commander, to save steps, to make the process more efficient, to make us safer on the fire ground. And I don't care if you go back to your agencies and say, "Oh, this product that I saw is the greatest thing I've ever seen. We need to get it." I don't care if you do that. In fact, in a conversation with a friend of mine, Alan Brunacini, he said, "You need to celebrate the tactical worksheet." And he is exactly right. Because what the tactical worksheet does is it instills a sense of consistency and standardization across an agency. So all I am begging you is to go back to your agencies and insist on a system of safety and consistency for your people. Any system. It doesn't matter if it's tactical worksheets. It doesn't matter if it's an ICS system on a laptop, on an iPad. There are great companies out there doing work, and there are also great individuals doing work. You've got Blue Card. You've got Firefighter Inspiration. Blue Card's Alan Brunacini is his sons, Nick and John, and Donnie Castros. You've got Tablet Command. You've got I Am Responding. You've got Active 911. You've got Elite Command Training, Mike Bryant, Dave Franklin. You've got Red Helmet Training. These guys are in the room today. And the only reason I bring this up, you've got Battalion 3. These are also two brothers from the fire service, essentially doing tablet command on Android products. And the only reason I splash a lot of these, some of them would-be competitors, others are leaders in incident command, is because these are fire-based. These are fire people that know what we need. I think one of the problems that we ran into with technology in the past is that engineers created problems for us on the ground level, and we were experiencing a totally different set of problems. So they were giving us solutions that we didn't need. They were hard to deploy. They were super clunky. But what I love about all of this is fire service based, and these are fire service people creating solutions to the problems that we have. The NIOSH reports that get filed every year certainly suggest that we have a problem with accountability and tracking our people. So however you do it, whether it's Velcro tags, tactical worksheets, key fobs, do something. So this is Walt Whitman, and I love his poetry. We talked about firemen being sensitive. Well, I'm a sensitive fireman, I admit it. And I love this verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. And what I would leave you with today is to go back to your agency, go back to your region. You can do this, whatever this is, whether it's creating a new system for Rick, whether it's making your hose deploys better, whether it's creating a new way to stow your ladders on your truck, whether it's bringing a technical rescue system to your volunteer agency. You may not have the blueprint, you may not have the set of directions, but if you have the passion, it will happen for you and it will unfold for you. Thank you for your time.